It is Wednesday evening, and you know what that means. It's time for another Auburn Family Night. This is our weekly live call-in show where we talk about anything and everything Auburn. This is all about your comments, your questions, your topics, and of course, your calls. Let's get into it right now. War Eagle Auburn family, and of course, a very special War Eagle, and welcome to those of you who consider yourselves part of the E2C network family. We appreciate you being here for the live stream, however you got here, for the live portion, for the replay. If you're from YouTube, if you're on Facebook, if you're on X, if you're on all the different places, times, multiverses, which you can get this content, we appreciate you being here and hanging out with us and spending some time. It is a Wednesday night show. It has been a minute since we've been able to do this on a regular basis, but I anticipate, I hope, barring some SEC tournament things, that this will be the last time for a while that we'll have a scheduling conflict with the final midweek basketball game having taken place. So we should, in theory, for the most part, have our Wednesday night show from here on out, 8 p.m. Eastern time, with no conflict of interest. Now, look, if you're going to have conflict of interest, or not interest, conflicts of schedules, Auburn basketball is a good excuse for that. So anyway, this show is all about you, your topics, your questions. It's my favorite week because it's the most low-key thing I do related to E2C Network. What you want to talk about is what we will talk about, and we will bounce around to 1,000 different things. Here are some of the things I'll set the table for you that you can think about. Obviously, Auburn spring practice, Auburn basketball, their current status, postseason aspirations, SEC tournament, otherwise women's basketball tomorrow also in their SEC tournament, fighting to stay in the NCAA tournament, which it looks like they probably will be in at this point. Baseball and softball are in full swing. Plenty of other Auburn sports topics going on out there. You take your pick. We will talk about it tonight. And of course, we want to hear from you, not just in the comments section, which is a very easy thing to do. You can take part in the show that way, but we'd love to also hear from you by calling into the show. The link that is attached to the top of the YouTube chat. Now, if you're watching on X, if you're watching on Facebook, I think I posted it on Facebook, but it's hard to know if it ever is actually visible. The best advice I can give you, if you want to call into the show tonight, come over to the YouTube stream, which is home base anyway, and make sure you click the link. It'll be right there. And you can just select to be on camera or off camera if you just want to have your voice heard, not your face seen. I understand it can be a little unnerving, but that is available for you this evening. Another thing you can do to take part in the show, smash that like button. It'll help the stream out, let other people know that they should tune into this show as well, be part of the conversation. So we'd really appreciate you doing that and helping us out that way. That is always appreciated, because it's the easiest, the cheapest way that you can do things like that to help support what we do here at E2C Network. I do want to give a quick shout out as we're kind of getting warmed up here to Dalton. I forget Dalton's last name, but also to Kyle. Jackson Webb for signing up as Conquer Club members recently. If you want to join the Conquer Club, you can hit the join button down below on YouTube or go to patreon.com/E2C Network. Sign up for as little as $1 a month to help keep the lights on here. They have just become members of the Conquer Club, and we appreciate you guys for supporting what we do here at E2C Network. All right, folks, what do you want to talk about? What do you want to discuss? There are plenty of things on the table to discuss, and I obviously can go the way that I want to go with this conversation, but I'm more interested in what you all are most interested in terms of the things that you think are the most top of mind things to talk about. It is the most wonderful time of the sporting calendar year, March Madness, and yes, I love college football being back in the fall. That is just about as wonderful, but I think there is nothing in this world as comparable to March Madness. And Auburn will yet again factor into the discussion and the play of that tournament. Thankfully, we have reached an era where it is not a question of if Auburn will make it. It is a question of where they will be seated. Those bygone days of being miserable hoping, wishing, waiting for your team to figure things out. It's gone. We are in March Madness, folks, and I cannot be more excited about it. WT, good to see you. Thanks for being here, hanging out with us on the stream. Just talking a little bit of excitement that I have building personally for March Madness. I'm sure that most of you do as well. Who plans, show of hands, on participating in our bracket challenge this year? I hope you're planning on it because it's going to be fun. Last year, I think we had about 200 people plus officially enter. I think we had more than that, but some did not get their brackets put in time. That's going to be key for all of you. If you're going to participate in it, you need to make sure that your brackets are filled out and actually like registered and stuff like that. We'll go through all of that when it's time to do so, but I'm excited to do that again this year. I think we'll have our prize and sponsor for that figured out, but I got to do some follow-ups about it. Man, I love making brackets. So a question that I asked everybody, and I've asked it, I think, on another live stream. I know I've done it on our TikTok lives. We do midday. Does everybody make one bracket, two brackets, three brackets? Like how do you all go about doing your March Madness brackets? For me, I think it is cheating to make more than one bracket that you have the whole game. I know that's an unpopular opinion, but since as one of y'all known me to not have unpopular opinions, I personally think that you should only have one bracket that you play with throughout the entirety of your participation in whatever bracket challenge that you're a part of, whether it's ours or none of that. And to be honest, when you enter ours, you're only going to be able to submit one unless well, there are certain things you can do to circumvent that, but I'm not going to mention them here because some of you will do that. One bracket, that is all I think that you should do. If you're not able to predict it in one go, which I know extremely limits your chances, but to me, that is the way it is meant to be done. I don't know how all of y'all feel about it, but that's basically how I feel about it. One bracket, one opportunity, one shot. And if you think that Auburn is... Now, I will say this. When Auburn first started making the tournament regularly, I would make a bracket where Auburn wins just because I'd missed being able to even have an opportunity to do that. And then I would make a bracket that I thought was actually going to go down. During Auburn's the Jabari Smith year, I had Auburn going all the way. And it was the first time I could legitimately say Auburn was going to go to the championship game and not look stupid, because they had a pretty great team with what we knew at the onset was one great player. Little did we know we had a bunch of great players all together. Just couldn't keep it together at the end of the year. If you love how well that Auburn basketball team has been since Coach Pearl got here, say a thank you to former athletic director, athletic director Jay Jacobs, who stuck his neck out to grab Coach Pearl. Best thing to ever happen to Auburn basketball. I think in some ways, a couple things about this comment here. I think it's got a lot of good discussion points. In some ways, yes, you are correct. I think we will get to the point where Bruce Pearl is the best thing in Auburn's history to have ever happened to it. I think right now, though, by a slim margin, it is still Charles Barkley. Charles Barkley put Auburn basketball on the map in a way they hadn't been, mainly in terms of mainstream. They might have been out there, had some good times before him, after him, but they didn't become a mainstream concept in people's mind until Charles Barkley came around, had the prolific career that he did, Team USA, the personality they had, and the fact of how involved and out there in the public he has been since, not just he had his career in the NBA afterward and coming back to Auburn. To me, he is still by a slim margin the most important thing that ever happened to Auburn. But if Bruce finishes out his time here as expected, he will be the most important decision. On the flip side of that, I will say, yes, I 100% agree with you that Jay Jacobs deserves a lot more credit than probably he's given these days for taking the chance on Coach Pearl. not shying away. It reminds me of a certain situation with another assistant coach recently that people need to wake up about, that people deserve second chances. I know it's an apple and oranges comparison, but the point still stands. So yes, Jay Jacobs does deserve that credit, and we try to give it to him whenever we can. But I wish and hope people will realize some things. On the flip side of that, let me say this too. I think Alan Green needs to be given credit as well for retaining Coach Pearl, because he is a hot commodity in terms of what he has done with Auburn. If you can take what Auburn was in terms of the state, not like its identity is much bigger and deeper than the decade plus before him, but the identity with which Bruce Pearl took over Auburn and changed it, transformed it, shaped it in his image, that alone, just speaks for itself. What he took over was just abysmal. What he turned it into was something beautiful. And I think Alan Green needs to be given some credit for retaining him as well. We can disagree about some of the other decisions made by Alan Green, but we need to give him credit for that as well. It's kind of funny that Jacobs hired the worst basketball coach in our history, then hired the best in our history right after. I think it may be a bit of a step out. We'd have to look at all of the nuances of that to determine if Barbie was the worst statistically. Maybe it is. I feel like there's probably going to be some on there we're not even aware of that are worse. Kind of like Harsin will be that somewhere we won't ever forget. But like, decades and eons when we're all gone, people will be like, oh, wow, what happened those 2 years under football? It'll be the same thing there. Barbie he was here for what, 6 years, something like that. I will tell you at the time, I really did think it was a good hire. But as I spent my time in Auburn with him there, I had a buddy that was a manager, and some of the stories I was told was not flattering or good. And then the day that he tried to blame Under Armour as the reason this program couldn't be successful, that was the day I was like, I'm out. And you'll never win me back from that point. WT, I agree with thanking Green for signing Coach Pearl and keeping him. However, he also brought in the potato coach. Well, there you go. And that's why I said when we talk about Alan Green's tenure here, it is going to be one of really mixed bag stuff. It was a hire that I think I liked at the time, and as it kind of got going along, it could have been better. I think, unfortunately, he was influenced to make a certain fire, then had to make a hire that maybe he wasn't necessarily ready to make. And the proof's in the pudding on that one. That will be his biggest accomplishment, will be retaining Coach Pearl. His failure will be Harsin. And unfortunately, the football one weighs a little bit heavier than the basketball one, and it shouldn't be that way, but it is. Going down memory lane a little bit today with hiring and stuff. What made you bring that up, WT? Thinking about Jay Jacobs. Were you just remembering all that stuff finally? I wish Jay Jacobs hadn't gone to Florida. Not to say that you can't do things outside of Auburn. Plenty of people do that. It just hurts me to see one of our guys go to be with one of our rivals. He went there to be like an associate. It was almost like he was the athletic director, if I understand it correctly, like 1.1, meaning he wasn't the athletic director, but he basically was right there, took over a certain type of role. And I believe he still lives in Auburn, if I'm not mistaken. But Jay Jacobs' time definitely is, remembered in a lot of different ways. Justin, good to see you. Thanks for being here, hanging out with us. What you got on your mind tonight? This is Auburn Family Night. Obviously, WT, Unbeaten Lake. Justin, you guys feel free to call in. Don't be shy. I want to hear from you. I want to hear some voices. Barbie has the worst percentage for a coach is the worst percentage in our history for a coach who has coached over 100 games. Going 18-50 in SEC play doesn't help either. Yeah, that'll get you fired real quick. um, so yeah, if you talk about just that caveat, then yes, he's the worst. But I'd like to see it compared versus all coaches before I name Coach Barbie the worst thing that ever happened to Auburn basketball. Yeah, I think I'll hold my judgment on that until I see those stats. But he definitely wasn't anything good for Auburn. I still remember the morning I heard we hired Coach Pearl. I yelled so hard that I scared the people around me and had to explain how important it was. At the time, it obviously is a lot of hype, a lot of excitement around it. It's hard to know whether or not that it was going to be the right hire, but it certainly seemed like that at the time. And look where it's gotten us right now. I will never forget. I was in a apartment we were in before this house, and I remember feeling like we were just watching history. It's one of those moments that I truly wish I lived on campus or near campus so that I could go and be there for those type of events. It's one of the things that we want to do here at E2C Network is provide those insights, those visuals for you all that don't get to do that a lot. So it pains me that we don't live a little bit closer, that I can't do that more often. I am toying, on a side note, I am toying around with the idea of going to Auburn. I'll definitely be there 8-day weekend, barring unforeseen circumstances, which if you've been following my life lately, which I haven't opened up a lot about, but some bad stuff, but it's nothing to really dive into here. I've said a lot to how busy I've been and how crazy life has been. You just never know. My plan is to be there 8-day. That's all I should say, basically, Lord willing. Justin says, haven't been able to pay attention to spring football much. How's it going so far? QB's looking good. For me personally, answering this question, I'm not at the practices. I'd love to be. If I lived closer, I'd go attend some of those. I almost was, I could go. Like, I know how to be able to get access to go do that, but it's just not feasible for me to drive down there a couple of hours for an afternoon and then drive back. If it makes sense for me to be there and there's a window to view, I would. But, if you watch some of the other beat writers and stuff, some of the information that's being shared out there, you're only seeing like warm up or early drill type of stuff. So it's really hard to glean any type of hardcore information about quarterbacks, about anything for spring right now. And really that's what spring football is. There's a lot of excitement and build up to it. Like, everybody starts asking their questions. What are the storylines? We kind of let things pass by and it gets real boring before we get like a week out from the spring game. There's the spring game, maybe some analysis after that, and then everything goes quiet again. So unfortunately, Justin, I personally don't have a lot for you in that regard. I think obviously there's going to be a lot of attention on the quarterbacks. Cue everybody, all the Peyton Thorne haters out there. I'm fine if you prefer another one. I just prefer that you express those desires in a more productive and thoughtful and careful way than a few others out there. But there is a quarterback competition as there is every year. It is Peyton Thorne's job to lose, though. Coaches said as much. I have heard that they have been hush-hush about much of the practices. But it's been pretty limited in terms of big information coming out of there. What I would say is this, if you're wanting more out of the practices, meaning to find some stuff more. But school's on spring break this week, I believe, if I got my timelines correct. And then they'll come back to practice officially. I think they have a few days off at least. They get about to the halfway point of spring practice. At least this was the trend, if I remember correctly, last year, the year before that too, maybe even subsequent years, preceding years, I should say. The trend it was for a lot of players to make decisions to transfer then, even if they weren't technically in the portal yet, like they couldn't because the portal hadn't opened yet. They had announced their intentions, thus they were not practicing anymore with the team. So I would say give it about another week and a half till we get to the halfway point of so like 2 weeks from the day, maybe from the actual spring game. By then, maybe you'll hear some people like transferring out, which should tell you how some of those races are going. Into maybe offensive linemen, defensive backs, things like that. People who want more playing time may make decisions to leave. That would probably be the only big updates I think we would hear at this point. Yeah, I figured they were on spring break. I will tell you this. I was not blessed enough to have a lot of money in college. I had to work a lot. And so thus I was on campus a lot, even when nobody was there. Spring break was pretty dead, except that, all the kids in school were at their houses and stuff. So like nobody left town basically. So it wasn't like dead. Just the college kids were gone. But during Christmas break, it was like a ghost town in Auburn. I lived in downtown Auburn, actually, like literally downtown Auburn. And it was eerie at times how I was like the only one around. It was kind of spooky. I bet there wasn't one other soul within 500 yards of me in town, like especially like at night and stuff like that when everything was closed down officially. Russell, good to see you, my friend. Thanks for being here. Good to see you again. We've missed you for a little bit. Happy to see some of our familiar faces. Looks like we've got a little bit of a smaller crowd on YouTube tonight, but based on the numbers I'm seeing here, we're getting a lot of people in from Facebook, from X. So thank you all so much for tuning in and being here. If you're new to the show, if you're new to what we do here, always express you guys come over to YouTube as a home base of sorts. Please feel free to watch there. But this is where you kind of get the essence of everything over here on the YouTube side of things. Noah's here as well. Good to see you hanging out with us this evening. Thanks for being here. Just talking about a bunch of random stuff. The phone lines are open for anybody that wants to use them. Take advantage of them if you'd like to this evening, or just if you want to bring up a topic for us to hit. We've talked about a bunch of different things already, and still plenty of topics we haven't hit yet. No one took my question about how many brackets do you make and ran with it this evening. WT says, I am of the mind that Thorne will have a breakout year this year. I think he will be comfortable in the system and should do well. Well, you'd like to think so, right? You really like to think that he could have a breakout year. I think a lot of times in the discussions around the quarterback race and the Peyton Thorne discussion, there is a lot of baggage from previous non-successful quarterback stints and context lacking from people's discussions around this. People continue to forget that Peyton Thorne was not here to start off as early as many others with the team last year. I believe it was like end of July, August. Like classes were very close to getting started before he could arrive on campus. I could have that a little bit wrong. I just know he didn't have as long as, say, the people here in the spring who got here in the summer. So it takes time. It should also speak to the state of the quarterback room that he won it with not as much time to compete and show that he could win. And some people say, well, he just won it because he's, an upperclassman. It's not that simple. That does weigh into decisions, but because they've earned something. So there's just a lot of grandstanding and arrogance around this quarterback discussion that really isn't necessary. There is a competition. Others will have a shot to win it. It is his job to lose, though. Who is your spring MVP? Well, without being able to be at the practices and watch that, if you're just asking me to predict, like at the 8A game, it seems like it's always someone you don't expect or think about. And especially because you play your starters a little bit, but you don't want them out there a lot to potentially risk injury. You play some of the younger guys. So it's probably going to be either one of these new freshmen or one of these guys that's been buried in the depth chart that'll get a few more reps. It wouldn't surprise me if a guy like Sean Jackson, who's, about fourth on, well, actually be fifth because it's Jarquez, Damari, Cobb, Batee. Yeah, Sean Jackson might not be the MVP, getting to run a lot during the second half, especially. Something like that is an offensive MVP. Defensively, it'll probably be, hopefully it won't be a defensive back, because that means that the quarterback's probably had a bad day. So maybe like a linebacker that we're not thinking about. DeMarcus Reddick. There you go. Maybe I'll throw out DeMarcus Reddick and Sean Jackson offensively as my potential MVPs for the spring game officially, I got a question. April 5th and April 7th, will that be practice open to the public or not? They are not practicing April 7th. I don't know where you got those dates. The game is April 6th. Practice is over on the 8A game. There has been a time in the past where they had like a practice day after the 8A game. Sometimes that was needed, apparently. I don't know that they'll do that this time, but as far as I know, April 6th is it. There's no practice on the 5th leading up to it, I would believe. When they announced 8A weekend, that is just, hey, here's all the things that are going to be happening on the weekend of 8A alongside the game that's on the 6th. So I hope that clarifies for you. The 6th is the game. Fans cannot go to practices unless it's otherwise specified by the university, by the athletic department. They have had open practices with Coach Harsin, especially. Did they do it last year? I think they did. it. Yeah, they had to, because I think I was there with Clint. Maybe I'm misremembering now. Cannot remember for the life of me. Anyway, your 8A game is on the 6th. Everything else is going to be, before that. Nothing after that, nothing around that. So hopefully that clarifies the schedule a little bit for you. In fact, I can tell you the practice dates. I had them written down for myself. I need to mark today's off. Apparently they had defensive coach interviews. I need to go look at those. Practice potentially Thursday, Saturday. It looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That sounds like too many. Their practice before Saturday will be Thursday. So Friday looks like it's not going to be anything. That's at least what they released online. And it does not look like they're having practice again until the 14th because they're on spring break. So not a lot to take away with right now. WT pandering to the network. My spring MVPs are Austin's kids, as they preclude him from going to many preclude him from going to many Auburn basketball games. That's good. That's good. You're not gonna let that one go, are you? I think it's not just that. Even living in town, it's hard sometimes to get tickets / find the time to go do these things, because there's a lot of basketball games you could attend. But yeah, I think it's really the away games that Austin can't go to anymore, because that's when he messes up. He ruins things for us. Are you going to the opening against Alabama A&M, the first game? So my answer always to these questions is yes. I will be at every home game, barring unforeseen circumstances, which every year so far there's been at least one. Last year was a doozy. The year before that, did I miss the second game? No, I don't think I missed any of the year before that. I think the year before that I had COVID. So yeah, it feels like at least one game a year at home I'm not able to attend, but it's the first game. So it's kind of what we do, go share all the stuff. Folks, let me just tell you, it's going to be hot. August 31st. It just feels hotter because we have to play a game in August. Whoever decided that we were going to have 2 bye weeks and not start the season 1 week later, I think needs to be taken behind a woodshed and just slapped around a little bit. That's mean, sure. I don't care. I'm just being honest. One of the most stupid decisions that have ever been made. Let's have 2 bye weeks. What do y'all think about playing in the August heat? And I know that's not the same for everybody. The North doesn't have to deal with that, but my gosh, makes me a grouch. when stuff like that is at play. If y'all remember, there was about 4 years ago, we had some of the hottest temperatures ever to start off the year. I think one game it was 100 or something like that, but it was in the high 90s basically for the first 5 games that we had at home. It was tough. Yeah, it was tough. No, I'm not understanding what your question is about. What you're asking about the bye week. Give me a little bit of clarification and we'll answer that. Which game are you talking about after a bye week? The bye weeks are not until October, basically. I don't have the schedule exactly in front of me right now, but I remember them being beginning of October. Maybe it was the beginning of November. Yeah, I think that's more likely. So like a month separating them. At least they're not like 2 games separated from each other. After Alabama A&M, I don't think we have a bye. Yeah, because I think it's A&M. Well, let's just pull the schedule up. You could just do that, Kyle, and solve all the questions. 2024 schedule: Alabama A&M, Cal, New Mexico, Arkansas at home, Oklahoma at Georgia, then a bye week, Missouri, Kentucky, Vanderbilt, then another bye week. So basically the first week of November after you play the Vanderbilt game. And it's going to be the frustrating thing about this bye week for us, bye weeks, is that the two right there, there's the games smashed between the two of them are in a normal year the easiest games you could possibly play in the SEC. Now Missouri this year is going to be tough. But yeah. Yeah. So first game is August 31st. Second game is September 7th. No bye week there at all. I will tell you this, though. Those Cal Golden Bears, they ain't going to be ready for the heat that they're going to face in Auburn, Alabama, nor the environment. From what I hear from people that were able to attend the Cal game in Berkeley, they enjoyed their time there. They thought the stadium vista was beautiful. It was a decent college football atmosphere, but nothing compared to what we do here in the SEC. And boy, oh boy, are they going to be in for a world of hurt with the heat, with the noise, with the level of intensity around game day. I hope that one's going to be a night game because I want the Cal fans to experience the fullness of game day weekend. Part of me hopes they're all night games, but we're not going to be that lucky. That's just the way it goes. 5 straight home games, they're not going to give all night games to us. I would bet that Oklahoma game, the last of the 5-game homestand, is going to get a night game. Thank goodness we don't have CBS anymore to try to put all the prime times at 2:30, although ESPN will likely do something similar. But I think your Cal game is a high likelihood for a night game, the Oklahoma game, maybe the first game too, but I think that Arkansas matchup, if they're not much more improved, you're going to see them probably be an 11 o'clock game. Might be lucky to get like a 3 o'clock. Again, I'm just hoping for a lot of night games because it's going to be hot. So hot. All right. What haven't we talked about yet? We're about a little over halfway into the show. We've covered a lot of the big major topics out there, but we want to make sure that we don't miss any things that you are most interested about. So let me know what is on your mind, what you want to talk about, what questions you have out there. Football, basketball, all of it's on the table, non-sports related. This is the Auburn experience after all. So we'd love to hear from you and have your thoughts on all this. No rush, but it is so tempting to ask you. Well, you're asking it, so don't say it's tempting. When you do a video about predicting the Auburn 2024 schedule. I don't know. I will do one, but it probably won't be till very close to the season. I don't get really into the making all these prediction videos way too early. I might do one here or there, like on social media, but not necessarily like a big YouTube video. I probably should because those probably play really well. But to me, I've got to want to do the video. I'm not just going to do it just because, everybody else is doing one at this point. Probably going to have it, a week, 2 weeks before the season, when I can really look at the progression of spring, summer workouts, fall practice, and make some bigger assumptions about the team. Now, people continue to ask me what's your record prediction. It's going to sit at 8-4 until I see something significant that makes me want to change up or down. Best NBA prospect at Auburn currently: Broome, Jay Will, Aiden down the road. Oh, that's easy. It's Janai Broome. Not taking anything away from my boy, Jalen Williams. Love him. I think the way he has come on this year has been absolutely incredible. I think Aiden is going to turn out to be exactly what we thought he was. It's just going to take him a little bit of time to get adjusted to everything, as we've seen. So not take anything away from him. But Janai has been one of those guys that just plays basketball really well. So well-rounded. He's big enough to handle himself at the NBA. He's versatile enough to be a threat from all different aspects of the game, which you need to be in the NBA. My hope is that he will be rewarded this NBA draft time with choosing to stay one more year and develop himself further. Has his game gone leaps and bounds from what it was last year? Maybe not, but it is definitely improved. And improved significantly enough that I think he will be rewarded for that. At least that's my hope. Unbeaten Lake. So that must be where everybody is at tonight. If we want to win a share of the SEC, South Carolina needs to win tonight. 39 point for South Carolina with 7 minutes in the game to go. Tennessee, 59-39. Okay, I'm getting conflicting reports here on what the actual score is. I guess I could just go to ESPN real quick and look, because you guys are giving me conflicting information. Let's see here. Houston and UCF playing. And UCF has been one of those teams this year that is not going to be rewarded for how competitive they've been all year. Tennessee is in the lead. Kind of what I expected. I think if you're still holding out hope for a share of the SEC title, you just need to move on. Just to be completely honest with you. I think that was after the Tennessee game. That didn't need to be our focus. Our focus needed to be about improving as a team, positioning ourselves well for things outside of that, and just let business be handled the way it's going to be handled in the tournament. Noah says Peyton Thorne or Walker Wright will be the starting quarterback realistically. Probably Peyton, because Walker is a freshman, but I think they will rotate. I disagree. I think whoever wins the starting quarterback will be the starting quarterback, because we had enough of that last year. I think that's what a lot of fans would want, but that will only fuel the quarterback controversy that people want to be there. And I think Hughes senses that too. Now, if Walker wins it, I think I want the same for him. I don't want these shenanigans of switching back and forth. Let your quarterback be the quarterback. See if he can get the job done. If he can't, make a decision to swap, and let's sit with it. Let's don't do all this switching back and forth like we did last season. If Peyton's the guy, Peyton's the guy. If Walker's the guy, Walker's the guy. And some of y'all need to reconcile with not Walker, but Thorne is probably going to be the guy, and you need to treat him like it. I'm not saying anybody here, but plenty of people that I've had interactions with. Getting the top 4 SEC seed. Hope so. Tennessee beating South Carolina would secure their spot in number 1. I believe I had it up earlier. Let's put it up again. SEC basketball standings. Tennessee losing tonight would put them on even playing field with Auburn and Alabama. Auburn carrying the tiebreaker over Alabama. Yes, they did split each other's regular season games, but Auburn carries the tiebreaker in another stint. I forget what it was exactly. over Alabama. They would have the tiebreaker over Tennessee. The trouble then becomes is you got Kentucky, who I believe is probably playing tonight because they have like one less game on the thing right now. So if they win tonight, you have a 4-way logjam at the top for number 2. Everybody was hoping there was going to be a 5-way logjam for number 1 in the SEC. To me, I see Kentucky probably would be ahead of us, putting us at the 3 spot, which is, I think, perfectly fine. It does match us up with them eventually in the SEC tournament, which would be a challenge. But here's the thing, folks. Everybody is going to be a challenge in the SEC tournament this year. You can take that to the bank. Not everybody. I shouldn't say that. Poor Missouri. Please put them out of their misery. The jokes just write themselves. But it's going to be tough to beat a lot of different teams in the SEC tournament this year. It's going to make for a good one. I said this morning on a TikTok live stream that this is the first time in a while where I've been legitimately excited for the whole of the SEC tournament. Obviously, there's always good basketball there, but really I tune in to the Auburn games, and then maybe if they're still in it, the semifinals, the finals. But I'll probably be paying attention to most of it this season to see what may or may not transpire and how it may or may not affect Auburn. But hopefully, Auburn's going to be able to secure themselves in that top 4 spot. I think with the South Carolina loss tonight, that would put us in a much better position to secure a top 4 spot, a double bye in the SEC tournament. So it'd probably be Tennessee, us, Kentucky, and then I guess it would shake out between Alabama and South Carolina, maybe Florida too, on how everything happens in these last games. I take Auburn over any SEC challenger at a neutral site. Yeah. We will travel well at a neutral site for the most part, depending on where it is. Yeah. I think there are some teams like Tennessee that are going to be pretty tough to beat even at a neutral site. But Auburn's got the skill, the talent, the cohesion as a team to compete with most teams, even at their place, like we saw with Tennessee. Teams who we don't want to play in the SEC tournament: Florida, Texas A&M, and Arkansas. Why Arkansas? They're still reeling a little bit, aren't they? I know they have maybe had a little bit of success, but boy, did it get off to a rough start. Y'all remember when that Arkansas blowout we were all hyped about, thinking we had just beaten one of the best teams in the SEC? Boy, howdy, were we wrong. Boy, were we wrong. Texas A&M, yeah, we don't have a great history playing them in the tournament. Florida seems like the one you don't want to run into this year. A lot of opportunities to have your night ruined by some of these Cinderellas in the SEC tournament. Buzz Williams will somehow get to the finals for a 3rd straight year. He's a good basketball coach. I don't care how bad his teams, how underperforming his teams may seem to be, but when he gets the most out of his players in the postseason, it seems like. They seem to be heating up. Well, they've got the talent to be able to heat up. Can they play together as a team consistently from this point forward? I don't know. Based on what I saw, no. Auburn embarrassed them at their place. Auburn embarrassed a lot of teams this year. South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama at Neville. I don't know that Arkansas can sustain any peaking they might be doing right now. But it's the SEC. This season, anything is possible. Anything is possible. That dub by 40 against South Carolina was nice. Boy, was it. I literally looked up on my screen and I said, is that 40 points? Is that really what I'm seeing? We're beating them by 40? This was supposed to be one of the best teams in the SEC, and they still are. It begs the question, what happens if Auburn plays South Carolina in Columbia? What happens at a neutral site? We'll find that out if we get to play them. But to to me, the excuse me, very intriguing with Auburn beating them by 4 points. You know what? Now that I'm curious, and we're all here talking about this, let's look at the Saturday games, just so that we can kind of get a good glimpse of everything and how everything might shake out. So I'm going to put in just the SEC. So South Carolina, they pulled up a little bit closer. In Tennessee, that has got 4:27 left in the second half. So probably going to go Tennessee's way, unless South Carolina can make a nice run here. Arkansas is beating LSU, not by much, with a few 6-7 minutes left. Kentucky's got to beat Vanderbilt tonight to pull even into what likely will be a 4-way tie for second, with Auburn and Kentucky holding most of the tiebreakers there. But this Saturday, let's look at the matchups. Auburn at Georgia at home should go our way, should complete the sweep of them. Fingers crossed. If Arkansas is getting hot, it'd be nice for them to beat Alabama and, cause them to fall further back. Texas A&M, Ole Miss will probably be a good game. South Carolina Mississippi State, South Carolina might be good. It's at Mississippi State too. But that Tennessee-Kentucky game, that is going to be the determiner for all of this right now. And if I'm not mistaken, that 5-way tie won't be a likely scenario after tonight for the top spot. I could be wrong. But yeah. All right. We finally got a caller tonight. I think I see him there. It looks really dark, but we'll bring him up and see if we can't get him on the screen. Mr. Kevin, is that you?
Yeah, War Eagle.
What's up, buddy? How you doing? There you are. I see you now.
I think Cam Coleman will be really good playing for Auburn next season.
You and a lot of other people. That's pretty much the only thing other than quarterbacks that people want to talk about spring, about how big and tall and his wingspan, how much all of that's in play. A lot of hype around Cam Coleman. I hope he's ready for all the pressure that comes with that.
And Bryce Kane.
I'm glad you brought up Bryce Kane. I think he gets forgot about a lot. Obviously, if everybody arrives on campus, you still got Malcolm Simmons. You got Perry Thompson coming. A lot of opportunities at that position, probably more than any other, for some freshmen to find some playing time.
And I still think Walker White will be the starter.
So why do you think that? Why is Walker White going to be the starter? What has he shown you that makes him the starter?
He threw over like I think 30 touchdowns last year.
Yeah, but that was in high school.
Yeah.
And that doesn't translate always to college. So a lot of great quarterbacks have done amazing. I'll point to Jeremy Johnson. You remember him?
Yeah.
Mr. Alabama threw probably about as many of those, was one of the best quarterbacks in the nation, and didn't really amount to much at Auburn. Now, there were reasons around that, but so high school success doesn't always translate to success on the field. Now, I think Walker White's going to be a good leader. I think he's already got that clearly. He's a very likable guy that makes him good to be in that quarterback role as a leader on the field. I think he's got he looks real strong and has a good arm and very athletic. I think all those things are in his favor. I just think it's going to take time for him to be ready to be the quarterback. But I could be wrong. You could be right.
Do you think Peyton Thorne be starting quarterback?
Me? Yes, I think Peyton Thorne is a starting quarterback until proven otherwise.
Yeah.
And there's nothing I think that's going to come out of spring practice that will change my mind on that, outside of Coach saying, hey, we figured it out. Walker White's the guy. No questions asked. But I don't think you're going to hear that, because if you name Walker White the starter now, Peyton Thorne's going to leave, and that's going to leave you with a big gap at quarterback. Yeah. Or somebody's probably going to leave this year. I think if Holden doesn't win it, if he finds himself lower in the depth chart, he might move off too. Potentially, maybe. I don't know.
I hope Robbie Ashford have a good season at South Carolina.
I know. I hate that he's not here with us anymore, but I do wish him well. I hope that he finds the success that he's looking for there. I appreciate and applaud him for sticking it out as long as he did, but I understand that he wants to play quarterback, so hopefully he'll find it there.
and you know Walker White dad was a golfer at Arkansas,
I didn't know that, but it doesn't surprise me with
and his
being
brother
be go ahead.
his brother was a football. He played football at Arkansas Central, Arkansas.
Okay. Well, I didn't know that they had all the athletes in their family, but it seems like that's a trend these days. If there's one athlete, there's a bunch of other ones. Doesn't it seems like that. We've had a lot of success pulling players out of Arkansas, and hopefully Walker White will be that someday for us. I don't think it'll be this season, but hopefully soon.
Hopefully,
Which is
our basketball team could win some SEC games in the tournament.
yeah. So realistically, what do you think? Where do you think they'll go? Like how far in the tournament?
Uh, Hopefully, Final Four.
So you think they'll make it the Final Four of the SEC tournament or the NCAA tournament?
Both.
Both. Okay. Well, I would say this team has as just as best a good a chance as many other teams to make it to the Final Four of their conference.
Yeah.
But the NCAA seems a bit of a stretch since they've been a little bit inconsistent. However, I've seen them play well enough this year that I'm okay if someone wants to say try to make a case for them to go to the Final Four. Championship is going to be you're going to have to sell me real hard on that. But Final Four, you could make a case if they're seated the right way. So
I
we'll
hope
see.
Broom win the SEC Player of the Year.
I hope so too, but I unfortunately I don't think it's going to be him. You know who it's going to be, right?
Tennessee.
Tennessee's player Dalton Knecht. And after I saw him play, there's no other choice. I mean, I love Janai. Janai has stepped up his game, and I wish we could get it, but it just seems once again there's going to be that one player that came out of nowhere that keeps our guy from being the player of the year. Sheway kept Jabari from it.
Yeah.
It's our lot in life to come so close.
Hopefully, I'll see you at the A-Day game.
I hope so too, man. So yes, if they do a Tiger Walk, we'll be out there. So come say hello if you see me in the game, not in the game, but in the stadium. Please come say hello. They don't want me out there, trust me. But hopefully we'll see each other there, buddy. All right.
Okay, War Eagle.
War Eagle, Kevin. Thanks for calling.
Bye.
Bye. All right. Good to hear from Kevin. Phone line will stay open for another probably like 5 minutes or so. So if you want to call in, don't be shy. Please take advantage of it. We'd love for you. I just realized that was not in the right zone there. Please do take advantage of it. We'd love to talk to you tonight. If you got other comments, questions, topics that we haven't hit yet, do not miss your opportunity to do so. We want to make sure that we hit all the different things that are of interest to you tonight on our first Auburn family night, and hopefully will be a long stint of them without interruption going forward. I have missed being able to do these on a regular basis with you. All right, Tennessee versus South Carolina is currently a 7-point game with 2 minutes left. I will say that if they can't get this within about 4 points when we're down to a minute, they got no shot. But hey, Knecht looked like he's doing 24 points right now. So pedestrian game for him. No, still a good game for him. Still a good game. I was telling Kevin, I think it's going to be Dalton Knecht. I would say I know it's going to be Dalton Knecht, but anything can happen as the SEC Player of the Year. I hate it for for Janai, but he shouldn't be ashamed of anything. He came back, took a chance, and I think he will be rewarded for that by going in the NBA draft, hopefully a little bit higher. Most people said last year that he would go in the draft, but probably very low in the second round. My hope is that he has propelled himself to the front end of the second round at worst, and hopefully into the first round. I think his versatility is what's going to really sell him to some NBA teams. He can play big. He can play fast. I think that is what's going to sell himself to a lot of these NBA teams. By the way, I had a good question, and it's a very, very similar topic that we've handled on some other shows. What would be y'all's top starting 5, and you can go and say like my reserves if you want to, for the Bruce Pearl era. Who would be your starting 5 for the Bruce Pearl era? Obviously, there's some big names that come up. My case, and you guys tell me what you think. Woo, just knocked the microphone. Sorry about that. My case for that will be the top 5 of the Bruce Pearl era players, and like who would be my starting 5. Right off the bat, my starting center is Walker Kessler. that's the no-brainer. My starting small forward, and I know he's bigger than a small forward, but he's going to just have to go there, Jabari Smith. I think Janai Broome is my power forward, and that's a really big starting 3 right there. But I think I'm going to put Janai at that. Shooting guard and point guard are a little bit debatable for me, but I said probably KT Harrell at shooting guard and Jared Harper as my point guard. What do you guys think? Big Simp, what's going on? What happened? Berman? I stopped watching the game. It got boring. I know it had been discussed. He was one of my favorites. So he was having a decent game and went to make a drive into the basket and got kind of hung up in some traffic. And then all of a sudden he just went down. Like it was almost like he crumpled. And I thought he kind of gave up on the play, but no, his ACL, it was a tear, I believe is what coach said, but said it was clean, like can be repaired, and he'll be able to. His plan was always to go play in Israel after college, and he'll hopefully still get to do that. But boy, is it just the worst to watch him go down that way. And the pain that was on his face because of the injury, but because he was coping with that pain, but also the pain of knowing that was the end of his Auburn career right there at that moment. I cannot imagine what that was like for him. Just, it breaks my heart. All right, so we've got a few people sharing their picks. Harper, Brown, Jabari, Kessler, Broome. So we're only separated by Brown. I wanted to put Bryce Brown in that spot, but KT to me, I think deserves to be in that spot. I think he was a more, and I say this and it's going to sound bad, but I think he was a more well-rounded basketball player than Bryce Brown. I could be wrong, but I think he was. Harper, Brown, Jabari, Kessler, Broome. There you go. Everybody's got the same thing. I think Jabari and Kessler are going to be on everybody's. Broome will be a good option for a lot of people, but then you've also got Harper. There's some easy ones out there, but I think there's some better options. I think if I went further to say my who would be my bench players, my second point guard would be, I think people aren't aware of how good Taj Shamsuddin would have been if he had not gotten hurt. But I'll say Sharif as my backup point guard. I will put Bryce Brown as my second 2. Believe it or not, my small forward is going to be Deshaun Murray. People are going to dog me for that, I'm sure. I have reasons for that we can talk about another time, but Deshaun Murray there. I would probably put Austin Wiley as my backup center, true center, even though Janai is on that team. And then my power forward would probably be Jalen Williams. Probably would definitely be Jalen Williams. That's a pretty good 10 for Bruce Pearl. I would like your 5 indeed with Broome at forward. So glad Baker is starting now. Long overdue. He's been doing this for a while though, Big Simp. Not, I mean, the whole season, but he's been coming on the way he has been for several games in the SEC play now. I love his energy. I love his passion. He's like a supersized version of KD with the way he gets into things. All right. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to close the phone lines down. It'll be closed to everybody. Sorry if you didn't call in. Hopefully you'll be back. Keep in mind, folks, I know we have been sporadic this basketball season with when and how often we're able to do this show, but we are back. As far as I can tell, barring some other scheduling conflicts with tournaments and stuff like that, for Wednesday night shows. Please, please, please tell a friend. Be here if you can. If you can't do it beforehand, or if you can beforehand, just smash the like button on the pre-show thing. We want to continue to build this little family within the Auburn family, and we need your help to do that. I know when we get out of the habit of these things, people forget that we're doing this live show because there's a lot of other shows that are competing at the same time. But you can help us continue to get better in that way by letting people know that you're here, by smashing the like button, inviting a friend. Continue to build all this stuff up here. Other things to keep in mind. I'll do this and we'll take some final thoughts, questions, comments to keep in mind. I don't have all the graphics ready because we're going, as you can see with this graphic right here, some things got messed up and I can't figure out why in my editor it's not letting me do what I used to do, because it looks like it's black and orange almost as opposed to blue and orange. Some blue in there. Auburn versus Georgia post-game stream this Saturday. Do not miss it. It's going to be fun. Sunday night, we will have the Auburn Experience live recording with Austin and myself. Don't miss it. That's going to be fun as well. Next Tuesday, another Auburn baseball post-game stream, but it'll be for the whole week. Week 4, we just did week 3 earlier today, so go check that out if you haven't. And then, of course, with all the SEC tournament stuff, there's going to be plenty of content coming out without that. So do not miss any of it. Follow, subscribe everywhere, especially here at YouTube if you are not. All right. What are some last-minute comments? What is going on here? Why am I not switching back over? Oh, because this is up. I'm all out of sorts. Final comments, questions, topics. Let's see what you guys are saying. Interesting you put Jalen over Purifoy, not saying I don't like it, but it would be close. If Jalen hadn't had the seat, what we're saying is at their peak, Jalen's peak has surpassed Purifoy in my mind. And I love D'Angelo. D'Angelo was incredible during postseason play for us that championship year and was probably going to be that year if he had been allowed, meaning the COVID year, to play in that tournament. I think that team could have been pretty special with their postseason performance. We'll never know because of shenanigans. Jalen over Purifoy. Davion Mitchell, if he had stayed, could have been probably the starting point guard. KT, Chuma, big dude that played some point. Simeon Bowers. I love Simeon, but he's not going to be in that list. Cardwell, I like him, but unfortunately he's not going to be there. Chuma's got a case, and I think a lot of people will be upset that they didn't see a Coro there. I think I like my team. I think I like it. Big Simp says, Saul Walker White, if he plays as good as he looks, he will win a championship. He's a big young guy. And Cam Coleman, they are huge. They grow them big, don't they, these days? Maybe we're just all getting smaller. Oh, got a little bit closer. Let's see over here what we got. Looks like it got a little bit further apart now. Yeah, Tennessee's got that locked down. So I wouldn't worry about that one, folks. 14 seconds left, 6-point differential. That is your SEC champion, regular season champion. Good team, but lots of other good teams in this league too. South Carolina, Auburn, Kentucky, Florida, Alabama as well. I'll give them the credit. Just not as consistent. It's been nice watching them struggle this week, though, hasn't it? All right, final thoughts, questions, comments, derogatory rebuttals. Get them in now before it's too late as we begin to head out in the show. If you haven't, smash the like button. If you're not, subscribe here on YouTube. Follow if you're watching on one of the other places so you don't miss any content from us. Cannot stress that enough. You never know what's going to come out when and where. If you're interested in helping support our content, one of the easiest ways you can do that in a financial way is by joining the Conquer Club. So many of y'all have done that by signing up here on YouTube, by hitting that join button, or by going to patreon.com/E2C Network. And again, a note for those of you like Big Simp, like WT, y'all are missing out on being in our Discord by not taking advantage of it. There should be a way for you to connect with it here on YouTube, like an access point. We want to see y'all over there. That's part of your perks is signing up for the $1 a month thing. So don't miss out on that. Good news is we will move up with South Carolina losing. I don't know if you're watching when we were talking about it, but we will be in a 4-way tie if Kentucky handles Vanderbilt as they should tonight. And we would hold the tiebreakers over Alabama and South Carolina, but not Kentucky. So I think we can safely say our highest point outside of Kentucky losing. I guess Tennessee beating Kentucky would move us up into the 2 slot. Yeah. So our highest point we can reach is 2 in the SEC tournament. Our lowest probably it could still be as low as 5, depending on how everything. If we lose, we're not going to help ourselves. So, all right, folks. With that being said, we are going to call this a show. I appreciate y'all being here, hanging out with me, and spending some time being part of our little family within the Auburn family. Can't wait to do this again next Wednesday, barring a scheduling conflict with SEC tournament stuff, but I don't foresee that happening. But folks, thank you so much for hanging out with me and spending time on a Wednesday night. Love talking Auburn stuff with all of you guys. Till I talk to you again, thank you for being here. And War Eagle.